So welcome. I'm Valur, your friend in Reykjavik, and we like to do these live streams, chats with all kinds of, uh, all kinds of course, my boys come right away.
It's Iceland with Kids, so it's perfect.
Yes. Puppy. Yeah. Puppy. This is unbelievable. Ja. En melken voor schouw en ja, best. Okay. Oh, efter.
Very cute.
I just got rid of them. Okay, let's go live. Yeah, this is very perfect. Iceland with kids, and yeah, you have to deal with kids. And yeah, sorry about that, Eric. So you have
Totally
a
fine.
website called Iceland with Kids, and you do travel itineraries, and you're a travel agent now, and you have released 3 books about Iceland. So, what started this love affair with Iceland?
Yeah, so my wife and I, we have 5 kids now. But back in 2009, we had 3 kids, and we were looking for somewhere to take our kids on vacation. We had a fourth one on the way. We thought, well, we probably won't be traveling with the baby too much. Let's find somewhere we can go. And we read an article about Iceland and how the currency had become less valuable in 2009 after the financial crisis. And so we realized Iceland was on sale for us. And so we decided to take a trip to Iceland. Unfortunately, prior to that trip, I ended up breaking my hip falling on some ice, not in Iceland, back home in the US. And so my wife was pregnant, I was on crutches, and we still had an amazing time in Iceland. But we also we didn't get much past Reykjavik and the Golden Circle, right? When you were walking around was good exercise for my arms. Um, I was lucky enough years later to be able to take a sabbatical from work to basically travel for a summer. And that was in the summer of 2016. And my wife and I decided, well, let's go back to Iceland and see more, see some of those things we didn't see in 2009. And so we were lucky enough to spend an amazing 12 weeks in Iceland, going all around the whole country. As much of it, you still can't see it in 12 weeks, but we saw lots more than the average tourist sees. And out of that, I decided to write a travel guidebook. I spent all this time researching this trip for my family to have a wonderful time. And I said, well, let me compile all this information into a book. And so this is the second edition of the book, but here's kind of see that there's my book, Iceland with Kids, so full of color pictures to share with your kids. There's my kids. Um, Something that I think parents and kids can look through and plan the trip and find some amazing places to see in Iceland and have a great time.
So this was the first book. You released that in 2000.
The first edition came out in 2018, and then I released the second edition. I updated Iceland with Kids. Just travel guidebooks have to be refreshed. The second edition came out in February of 2020, which was probably one of the worst possible times to release a travel guidebook since COVID hit a few weeks later. And I sort of saw the sales, kind of go down, down, down to zero pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so the second edition came out in February of 2020, and we updated on the website. So if you buy the book, you get a link to our website where we kind of give updates about what's happening, what's changed in the last couple of years.
Mhm. So why Iceland with why this scenario? Why Iceland with kids? Where did you get so many questions about how it was to travel with your?
Yeah, great question. I guess that there were 2 reasons really. One is that when I sort of jumped into this, there were certainly other people writing books about Iceland, doing Iceland planning, and so I decided I better have a niche because there's some people in the U.S. Rick Steves is a very famous, travel writer, and there's Fromers and Foders and all these guidebooks to Iceland, and I figured, well, I better focus on something nobody else is focusing on. So I called it Iceland with Kids. And actually, we get a lot of people who don't have kids. I was telling you earlier, one of my most popular posts on my website is how to get your cell phone working in Iceland, especially for people from the US. And a lot of the people who come to that site don't have kids. Um, but also, we realized, taking our kids to Iceland, that we realized just how family friendly it was. The just the practical tips, from the United States. If you're on the East Coast, if you're in New York City or Boston, it's faster for you to fly to Iceland than it is to fly to California. Right? People don't realize how close relatively Iceland is. Right, that 4.5 hour flight is really short. Um, if people visit in the summertime, they get 24 hours of daylight, which is great. You don't have to sort of worry about getting stuck anywhere in the dark. It's the safest country in the world. And lots of tours are free or discounted for kids. We in that on the 2009 trip, we took taxis a lot of places around. Took a taxi to the zoo, for example, because again I was on crutches, and we ended up calling the same taxi driver time and time again because he had the minivan with car seats for us. And we visited the zoo, and it had snowed the previous day. This was in March of 2009. And he got out and made a snowman with my kids for a couple of minutes. And we just realized that it's a culture that's very, very friendly to children, likes kids. It doesn't frown upon you taking kids into restaurants or museums or going different and having them experience life there.
Mhm.
And so for us, we thought it was the perfect combination. It was amazing. It was safe, very kid friendly. And so we realized after that first trip that it was a perfect destination, especially for a family that maybe from the US or Canada or the UK that hasn't been out of their own country before. And maybe they're looking for something different. It's a safe adventure. You get to
Mhm.
see these world-class amazing sights, but almost everybody speaks amazing English, and the roads in the summertime are, paved and really good, and the sites are nearby, and you're not worried about crime. And it's just a really, really, I think we call it a starter destination for families looking for a family vacation to a different country to experience a different culture.
Mhm. Yeah, sounds like you hit the nail on the head, so to speak. You had four children then, or three
Um,
children when you were traveled
we had
first.
three and a fourth on the way, and now
Yeah,
we have
fourth on the way.
five.
So obviously, this was a very easy way you had to deal with a couple of how do you travel with kids in Iceland. So this was a perfect niche for you.
Yeah, our trip in 2016, we planned it prior to realizing we were having another kid, a fifth kid, and so my daughter was 3 months old when we left for Iceland in 2016. So we had all ages on that trip. We had 14 down to an infant, and so we knew the rules for what ages you could take kids on this boat ride or this pool, and the Blue Lagoon being two and up, but this place is okay for kids of any age, and we definitely covered the whole spectrum there of kids and ages and activities that kids would like at different ages in Iceland. So,
Mhm. And then the next book, what brought you to my hometown is the Westman Islands actually.
oh,
So
I didn't know that.
you're talking about my uncle there, the puffin.
Okay. Yes. Um, yeah. So the Westman Islands I think it's my favorite place to send people in Iceland. I love that it's sort of off the beaten path, but not that off the beaten path. Especially in the summer when the ferry is more reliable and you're going to get the Landia Hubben, the 35-minute ferry ride, not the 2 hour,
Well,
45-minute ferry ride.
actually, the ferry, they have,
It's a new ferry,
they,
right?
yeah, the new ferry is, it goes most of the year. They're just, fortunately, they're getting fewer and fewer
Good.
cancellations or have to go the longer route,
Yeah.
the seasick route, so to speak.
Good. Someone told me it's a lot better than before, but it's not as good as they were hoping. Like it's still like kind
Yeah,
of too deep in harbor or something. I didn't
yeah,
really
yeah.
understand.
They're trying to get it better. But can you show the cover of the Puffin
Um,
book?
so this is the second book I read. This is my, see if I can get that on there.
Yeah, Lundi
Um,
the Lost Puffin.
Lundi the Lost Puffin. So was my sort of quarantine project, right? So I published this first book. Second edition came out in February of 2020, and I quickly realized that I probably wasn't going to make it to Iceland that summer, that I wasn't going to be selling many of these books or planning trips for people. And so when I heard this story of how the children on the Western Islands rescue the baby pufflings in the fall that end up going to the island instead of going to the ocean, I thought it was an incredible story. When I heard the numbers that, something like when I was writing the book, I think in 2019, like 7,700 baby pufflings were rescued by the children of the Westman Islands. They stay up late. They rescue the baby pufflings that once they land in the town, they're stuck. And so they put them in cardboard boxes. They keep them overnight in their houses. Is this something you did as a kid? Did
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do this
yeah.
rescue?
Part of living on the island. The family affair, going out puffin hunting
Right.
and
Yeah. And then you
and
take your
not
kids.
in the good sense,
Exactly,
not the
exactly. Puffin saving.
puffin
Yeah.
saving. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so actually, this is my question that I wanted to ask somebody is when you have the puffin in the box overnight, is it loud and scared all night? Are you not getting much sleep that night, or is it okay? Does it kind of settle down?
No,
Like,
no,
what's
it's
life like
okay.
with a
You
puffin?
know, usually, of course, you don't put the box right next to your bed or something like that. They are put in the garage or it's not because they can, of course, be a little bit rowdy, but eventually they just cool
Right,
down
they settle down. Good.
yeah, and why, I'm just curious because so the name of the book is basically Puffin, the Last Puffin.
Yeah, it does. It's
Yeah,
funny enough
no,
that
no name
yeah.
for the. Did you figure out a name for the puffin?
Yeah, I decided that I think Lundi, I wanted to sort of teach maybe one word of Icelandic to
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
In the book at the end, it says Lundi means puffin in Icelandic. So they'll always learn sort of one word of Icelandic. I want it to be kind of educational. It's funny, like it actually won a couple of awards. You know, it won a couple silver medals as best children's book of 2020.
Okay, cool.
And to enter it in those contests, you have to choose, is it fiction or nonfiction? And I'm like, well, obviously, this is a talking puffin who tells you his story, right? About how he got lost in the Westman Islands. So obviously, it's not true, but it's really based on what happens in the Westman Islands, and it has a picture of the actual Sea Life Trust aquarium where the puffins go, and so I want it to be sort of a fun and educational book. Teach people of this amazing story and this heritage that you guys have of, I guess, hundreds of years of rescuing these puffins. But I want it to be fun and engaging, not just sort of a science book. And so I decided to tell it from the puffin's point of view, because he's the only one who sees it from start to finish, right? You don't see him having to leave and being scared and flying the wrong way. So I wanted to sort of tell it from his point of view, and I wanted to get sort of Lundi in there. And yes, I know it's Puffin the Lost. It's like naming your kid, right? Naming your child.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work very well. But in English, it's good. It teaches people this word. I'm hoping people will sort of learn one word of Icelandic when they read the book, and that word's going to be Lundi. So
Okay, cool. So yes, Hilda is coming back from school, but it's
hello.
perfectly okay. This is a family affair over here.
Yeah, that's
So
good too.
then you just released the third book.
Yeah, so this is my newest book, just came out, I don't know, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Um, it's called 100 Tips for Visiting Iceland. This is my first non-kids book. I mentioned that people are coming to my website asking about cell phones. This was actually at the Icelandic newspaper a year or so ago. I met someone on a plane who had this sort of trip planned, I assume by a travel agent, and it said, okay, you're going to fly into Iceland, and then you're going to fly to Akureyri. And he had no idea that these were separate airports, right? He had no idea he had to get from Keflavik, or it's not actually Keflavik, close to Keflavik, to the Reykjavik city airport, and that there were transportation options and time involved in that. And I
Yeah,
tell Icelanders this.
that's a bit tricky for people. That the airport is actually located in Sandgerði, which is actually close to Keflavik,
Right,
which
right,
is
yes,
actually close
right,
to Reykjavik, which is not Reykjavik Airport. So
right. People at the airports in Keflavik and the Icelanders say no, it's not, and that was one of the comments in the Facebook post. So it's called the Keflavik Airport, but it's often called the Reykjavik Airport. I flew out last July. There was a lull in COVID, and I snuck in this Iceland cruise, and I flew out and I took a picture that's actually in the book of I flew on Delta, and you go to the gate, and it has a little TV screen that shows you where you're flying to, and it says Reykjavik. It doesn't say Keflavik anywhere. I don't know. I don't even think it said KEF. So somebody flying there, it's reasonable you have no idea. But the Icelanders, I tell them this, and they're sort of shocked that that's what it looks like. But if you haven't, planned your trip for hours and hours and just, book a trip and you fly to Reykjavik, you think you're going to be in Reykjavik. And so there were a lot of these sort of things and power adapters and places to see and lots of sort of things that I just want to give people sort of short little, elevator pitches, right? Here's a quick tip about where's the airport. Here's a couple ways you can get to Reykjavik. Here's cell phone options. And so I started writing these down, saving a list of all these little tips. Before I knew it, I had 103 different ideas. And so I put those in a book called 100 Tips for Visiting Iceland. I think it's a nice little small, portable book. You can take it with you. It's not a huge, crazy guidebook. Great supplement. A lot of people said these are tips I didn't see in my guidebook. I haven't found them, online. This is, quick read, very helpful for people to really get their feet around some of these tips and understanding Iceland better in a short period of time. So
I just put a link to the comments, it's available on Amazon, so people can grab it for their Kindle, and is it also like obviously in
yeah,
book
yeah.
form? So
So yeah, all the books are Kindle and print. The Kindle book is priced less than half price. It's $4 US. It's recommended, 550 Icelandic kroner or something. So it's a pretty cheap edition. You can read it on the plane or before the plane. I'm trying to make it a sort of cheap and easy supplement for people visiting. They may have other resources, but this can be a great supplement.
just to compare it, it's an Icelandic hot dog. So just keep that in
Yeah,
mind, people.
hot dog's
So
tastier, but that's all right. It's long.
tip number 104.
Hot
So
dogs get a mention in there for cheap food options.
So I'm just gonna say hi to Julie and Svava and Robin. There are a couple of people watching us. So
Hi, everyone.
and yeah, you also do itineraries, right? So I'm just
Yeah,
gonna share.
so everything I've done has really come out of people, asking me things, asking for tips, asking where the airport is. After I published the book, people also started asking me, "Hey, your book is great, but there's 100,000 words in this book, right? It's there's a lot of information there." And so people started asking me, "Do you plan itineraries?" And I said, "No, I don't." Um, and so I decided that also during COVID, well, let me try this and see what happens. And so we will plan a custom itinerary for your family. And I think planning a family trip is different. Well, planning a custom trip, first of all, is great, but a family trip, you want to leave more time for the kids. You don't, I think for younger kids, you don't want to do Olive Ring Road and drive all around. And so we use this software called Trip Creator, which is actually based in Iceland. Valerie just told me they're based in Reykjavik. If you click on the map, maybe sort of that up top, the map option there, this is really my favorite part of it. You can kind of scroll through each day, and where it says all days, there's an arrow there. You can really scroll through and see what you're doing each day. You can see the days are color coded. You can pick one day and look, there's your flight the first day, and you know you kind of go through, and here's your next day, you're going to the Golden Circle. And so I think sometimes people, when they get an itinerary from a travel agent or somebody else, they don't really know where they are in Iceland. They're just kind of going from point to point. This really
Mhm.
shows you what you're doing. You say, oh my gosh, we don't have time, we have to get to our ferry in the Western Islands, can we skip this? You can see, is it out of the way, is it on the way? And so we work with families, or anybody, doesn't have to be a family, one-on-one. We have a video call with you to ask what you're looking for, how old your kids are, what your style of travel is. Do you want to be going all day? Do you want to be relaxed? No two itineraries we create are ever the same. They end up completely
So
different based on your flights, based on your family, based on if you want to drive or not, things you want to see. And
mhm.
so we've gotten great feedback from the families who work with us. We're a fee-based travel planner. There's not that many of us out there. All right, there's a couple. Jeannie from Iceland with a View is the other one, and she's great as well. But most people, if they're getting help, they're working with a travel agent who's getting a commission for recommending a different hotel, and it may not be the right hotel for your family, right? Especially families, if you have, a couple of kids, 2 or 3 kids, you don't want to be in 2 or 3 different hotel rooms. You want to stay all together, and that makes the planning harder. And so that's the service we offer to help people plan. Really, we plan these families' vacations as if we were planning our own vacation, not looking for commissions, not looking for, just looking to give you the best Iceland experience we possibly can.
Yeah, it can be tricky finding a hotel room to have like 4 people or 5 people on the same,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not
People don't
all.
realize. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
had people come to me and they actually worked with somebody who had planned a trip for them, and they just kind of plug it in, and they end up with 3 hotel rooms in this one place, right, for their family of 5. And like, well, how does that work? Like, two, and one, you're gonna have an adult, 2 kids by themselves. Like, the math doesn't really work out very well. And
Mhm.
so yes, find an Airbnb if it makes sense, something that a travel agent wouldn't do because you don't get a commission from that, but you pay me one planning fee, and then I give you the best discounts I have, the best options for lodging and everything else that I can possibly give you.
Sounds cool. And then you also just added, now you're a travel agent. So are you working with like cruise liners that are going around Iceland?
Yeah, so I became a travel agent just a couple of months ago. One, so that I can book lodging for you if you want me to. So some people come to me and say, pick these places out, just book a guest house for me as we go. And now I can actually go and do that and rent a car for you and book plane tickets for you. Most of my planning clients still want to book travel on their own, which I think is great. They want to have the emails, the confirmation numbers in their emails. But I really became a travel agent to try and sell cruises. So there are probably about 10 different companies right now that offer these circumnavigation cruises around Iceland. My favorite, of course, is Iceland Pro Cruises, which is the co-owned by an Icelandic person. So that's the one Icelandic-based company that I think is great. And I think more than half of the expedition staff, lives in Iceland or is Icelandic, which you don't get with any other company. But there's Hurtigruten and Viking and Windstar and a bunch of other companies that offer these circumnavigation cruises. And I took one with Iceland Pro Cruises, which I thought was wonderful. But also there were sort of some days where people didn't realize like the boat was docking in Djúpivíkur and then driving to Jökulsárlón, right, and doing this sort of super long drive because there's no port. It doesn't really stop down in the south coast much anyway. It stops in the Westman Islands. But again, people don't really know where things are, and they don't know that maybe you don't want to do an excursion. Well, I'll give you a day tour of Ísafjörður to go and eat in this restaurant and see the Maritime Museum and go to this store. And so sort of being an Iceland focused crew travel agent, instead of booking your cruise with a travel agent who knows cruises but doesn't really know Iceland, book with one who knows Iceland. I think I can customize your transportation from the airport to the ship. I can customize your pre and post tour. I can customize even your excursions for the days if you tell you which ones I recommend, or you know what? So I'll save you some money and I'll plan a walking tour of this town for you in one day. So I think that hoping it's a better experience for people booking a cruise to Iceland to work with an Iceland specialist. So just got that
So
up and
people,
running.
so people are not, usually like these cruises, they have like a lined up, like you said, like maybe going to everybody on board a bus and going to one places, and if people want a little bit more bespoke experience,
Right.
something
Yeah. I actually
something
like,
unique, not with a whole group, then they can
right.
talk to you.
I'm actually talking to a woman who's going to be a client soon, and she's going on a cruise with Iceland Pro Cruises, but she doesn't like big bus tours. And so that's fine. You know, I can tell you, I can give you a trip. Let's get you to this waterfall, but I'll go and book a hotel. If you're through, I'll tell you how to rent a car, and I'll make sure you get back in time for the ship. And I can tell you how that works because it's something that probably no other travel agent is going to be able to offer that just for Iceland. They can offer it for other countries, but I think, yeah, hopefully I can, yeah, give you a cruise. It's still bespoke and you can see some more local things and not have to just jump on whatever is offered by the cruise company. And also before and after, the same thing. They offer prepackaged Golden Circle tours. Again, just on a big bus, I can help you rent a car and see it yourself, or find a smaller, Icelandic-owned, company that's going to be on a minibus or a private tour. I can give you options to really customize your experience before, during, and after the cruise.
But what is the, okay, you came here in 2009, and you've written 3 books, become a specialized Icelandic travel agent. So what's the obsession with Iceland? Obviously, as you said earlier, you and I like to travel with kids. It's a perfect first time destination for people. But you know, what is the thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I really do think it's a perfect destination for families. I think there's two separate sides of that. One is that, I think I wanted to sort of pick a destination and really become an expert there. I wanted to offer really expert travel advice that I think is really lacking out there. That there are a lot of still travel agents represent hundreds of different countries and places, and they're going to sell you whatever tour gives them a commission. I sort of didn't like that model. Coming from finance, that's the same issue in finance, right? I've had a 20-year career in financial services, and a lot of times the advice you get is commission based instead of fee based. And so I sort of wanted to use that model in travel as well. And so I think I was looking for a country or a place that I could focus on. And I think I kind of just fell into Iceland with that 2009 trip. And then it sort of grew one step at a time, right? So we did the 2009 trip. I had a great time. I didn't do anything for 7 years, right? We went other places during the time. We didn't go back to Iceland, but we did go to other places with our kids and our family. But then when it came time to go back to 2016, something drew us back. I think just we hadn't been there in the summer, so seeing the 24 hours of daylight, and I really think that I think maybe the Icelanders don't, maybe they do appreciate this. I think tourists don't appreciate that you can get to this one of the world's most amazing waterfalls, and it's right there on Ring Road, right? Or you can get to a glacier or a volcano, or go inside a volcano, right? There's all these sort of things and you're not having to do. And you see these pictures on Instagram, and sometimes in Iceland, they're a long hike. They're in the highlands, and somebody hiked 3 days to get there. A lot of the times, though, you see things from other countries. That was a 4-hour hike to get to this amazing view, and they had to use a drone to see over the canyon. I think a lot of places in Iceland, though, it's right there.
That's one of the things that I miss, from Iceland, is that there's such a short distance to go to beautiful places, to beautiful nature. There's a from the Black Beach to the glaciers, whatever it is. It's you don't have to go like for a day thing to snap one photo and then head
Right.
back. It's a you get a lot of bang for your buck.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, flights are reasonably inexpensive. You have Play Airlines coming through now. It's just, I think it's for me, if I can sort of help, families to really expand their kids' minds and take them, instead of, a trip to the beach or Disney World, you've done that in your own country. You go to Iceland, I can help you do it safely and easily and not that expensively. Sometimes, usually, it depends when you go. Not in the first week of August, otherwise it's okay. And you can really, I think, expand the kids' minds and have them see a different culture. And it's not as sort of hard or overwhelming as you think it is.
Sounds like a plan. So, any last words? Did we miss something that to cover something?
Um, I don't think so. I guess one thing I will mention is, just in sort of in planning a trip with kids, maybe just, advice. I feel like sometimes the smaller things with kids are the most memorable. I try any plan that I do where you have kids. I try to send you to a grocery store, and people are like, "Who plans a grocery store? What other itinerary gives you the grocery store built in?" But when it's, if it's open, if you're not arriving at 5 a.m., I'll send you to Keflavik and I'll send you to a grocery store, because I think for kids that really is, and I'll have you get Icelandic cash. And maybe the kids can pay with cash or buy a hot dog with cash. I think there are little things when you're traveling with kids that you don't know what's going to sort of catch their interest, catch their fancy, and be memorable. I think there's
Mm.
sometimes these little things. So even though there are amazing waterfalls and black sand beaches and glaciers and volcanoes and puffins and everything else, sometimes those little things can really be the most memorable. And I try to build in some of those. And I encourage people to build in getting cash, going to the grocery store, going to a farmer's market or a flea market, or the library in Reykjavik and finding the section of English books, going to a local thermal pool and chatting with whoever's there. There's just a lot of sort of little things you can do as well. So sometimes with the big things in Iceland, we forget there are little things that I think adults love, but I think kids really enjoy
Yeah,
and
yeah, and
remember.
exactly, and like paying with the different currency, broaden their minds a little bit. Different foods, show them maybe, uh, yeah, foods that are not widely available in the U.S. Like,
Yeah,
so yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea.
yeah.
So
Thank you.
Eric, just excellent chat. Sorry about the. Now I need to feed my little one. He was asking for some berries in a bowl, and obviously I didn't do my duty before the live stream. I
Fail.
didn't think about that. I thought it would be enough to promise them a computer game before the start of the stream, but
It
I
felt like the
forgot.
perfect background music for Iceland with kids. It was great.
Yeah, I forgot the snacks, so I need to fix that. So yeah, lovely
Go
to talk with you,
Perfect.
Eric. And give my regards to your family.
Yes, yours as well. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. It was great fun and happy to talk about Iceland whenever somebody asks me. So thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
Bye.